Well, I was having lunch with Guy Green, the director who I'd worked with before, just before we all set off for Libya to make a film called Sea of Sand, which Dickie Attenborough was in as well. And Guy was saying, "Are you happy with the script and everything?" And I said, "Yeah, it's a pretty good script, you know, for a wartime picture." But I said, what worries me is it's now 1957 or 58, whenever it was, and why are we still making war films? Why don't we make some films about current events, or, you know, what it's like to be living now? Such as, he said. And it struck me that when I'd been in the rep company in York, a guy had been sent to Coventry. It was a railway town, very much so, York, and he worked as a railway fitter or whatever it was. And there was a wildcat strike, and he refused to go on strike because he said he couldn't afford to. There was no strike pay, and he had family to support, and he refused to go on strike. So he was sent to Coventry, not just him, but his family and the kids who were at school and the whole bit. And as far as I remember, I may be wrong, but I think he stuck it out for a year and then he topped himself. And I said, now there's a story that has sort of drama and tragedy and it's current. Oh, he said, have you got a script of it? And so I lied in my teeth and said, well, not a script exactly, but an outline. Oh, he said, I'd really like to see it. So I said, well, fine, I'll bring it with me when we come out to Tripoli in Libya. So we were leaving for Tripoli, I don't know, a week or so later. And so I rang up my brother Richard, who was in the business then as well. He was an agent. I said, what about this? So he hastily wrote an outline of the story, and I had it with me when we all met up in Tripoli sometime later. And by coincidence, Dickie Attenborough, who was also in the film, as I said, he had just started a company called Beaver Films, with Brian Forbes, and they would obviously be looking for subjects. And he read the outline, he said, oh, yeah, oh, that's very good. And of course, he saw himself as the guy being sent to Coventry, as had I, being an actor, and oh, I want to play the lead. Anyway, we finished the shoot in Libya, and then Dickie said, have you got a script? I said, you can have a script very soon. So Richard and I, my brother, we went down to Essex, where he had a little cottage with no running water, and we wrote a shooting script in about a week or so, because it was, the outline was pretty, and gave it to Dickie, and he went off to make a film called SOS Pacific, on which he met Pier Angeli, and he showed her the script. She wanted to see what it was, and she said, I'd like to play the wife. So suddenly everything's happening, you know. You've got a Hollywood name, Pier Angeli, and Dickie Attenborough, and so then it was just a question of getting the money up to shoot it, and the Bolting brothers were interested with British Lion, but it had to be made for, under £100,000, which a pretty small budget. So all of us agreed to do it for a token fee and a piece of the profits, ha-ha. And so it got up and running, and then the casting happened, and I got cast as the brother, and Bernie Lee came on board, and it was Oliver Reed's first sort of big movie, and he was charming. He'd just come out of the army, and he stayed with me in my house. I was living in Wimbledon at the time. He stayed for a while, and nothing like the sort of tearaway he became. And my dear friend Bernie Lee, and I had a problem because I was under contract to Rank, and they didn't want me to do it because A, there was no money in it for them, and being under contract, if I was loaned out to another company to make a film, they got paid my yearly salary for that film, so I didn't cost them anything. I might make another 2 films for them for free, as it were. And also because I've been playing the same character, whether he was a doctor or a lawyer or an architect or whatever, middle class sort of chap, collar and tie, rather sort of drove a Jaguar. And the idea of this chap going off to play a kind of teddy boy almost, you know, with the sideboards and off accent and riding a motorbike and so on. They didn't like it, and they said, no, I couldn't do it. So I said, well, that'll make a very good story for the press. How I wrote it, and I got the part and got it up and running, and you guys won't let me do it. I don't think you'd come out of it very well. So reluctantly they said, yeah, okay. So that's how it came about, and off we went up to Ipswich and shot all the factory stuff there. Brian Forbes did another rewrite on Richard and my screenplay. Hardly changed it at all, no. And we had a sort of a falling out later because he claimed that it was really all him in his biography, and it wasn't true. And anyway, we have the evidence because the Oscar nomination that we got in 1960 says on it, story and screenplay by Michael Craig and Richard Gregson, screenplay by Brian Forbes. So, but they did kind of try and take it away from us. And then I think he might have been co-producer. He wanted his wife, Nanette, to play the girl, but I think John Bolting said, I think that's pushing nepotism a little too far. And so some other girl played it. And I learned to ride a motorbike, and off we went. Well, I suppose unfairness and bullying, and I've always been a very strong union man all my life. I've been a pain in the butt to a lot of employers because I say, no, that's not what it says in the contract, and no, I'm not going to do that, and so on. So I've been in quite a bit of strife. But a wildcat strike is something else, as we all know, like with the tubes going out at the moment, and it's not right. And if you're a member of a union, you should abide by the union rules, but a wildcat strike is against union rules. And that sort of thing, and also the damage that can be done by that sort of treatment, not just to the person involved, but his family and friends and everybody. Funnily enough, the little girl who plays Dickie's daughter was Guy's little girl, his little daughter, and so there was a bit of nepotism there. Of course, she didn't get paid. Obviously, when I wrote it, I thought, no, I'll play the guy who was sent to Coventry. But in fact, it was much better casting that Dickie should play him and I should play Joe. And it turned out to be a pretty good part, and I enjoyed doing it, apart from having to ride the motorbike, which scared me, because I'd never ridden a bike, but at least it taught me how to do it. And yeah, I was quite pleased with it, you know, and it made a change from playing Doctor in Love sort of characters. He was a great friend of mine, Guy, and my first big film at Rank was directed by him, a film called House of Secrets. We became good friends, and I mean, he was quite a bit older than me. He only died a couple of years ago, aged in his 90s. And then we did Sea of Sand together. Then we did The Angry Silence. Then I think Guy went to America after that. And we kept in touch, but I don't think I saw him again. But he was a great man. Of course, he was originally David Lean's cameraman. And he'd won all kinds of awards as a lighting cameraman. And he said that progression which there used to be in the film business from if you started off as a focus puller or clapper loader or whatever, then you became a camera operator, and then you became a lighting cameraman, and then if you wanted to, you became a director. Well, it was absolutely mad, because the fact that you were a very good operator, you know, which needed those skills when they had the old wheels both sides, didn't mean that you'd be any good at lighting, or vice versa. But that was the progression, and that seemed to be the way. And anyway, I think Guy turned out to be a pretty good director. I asked him what was his secret for lighting when he, you know, was doing it for David Lean. He said, well, my theory is you put all the lights on, and then you cut off the bits that you don't want, with gobos and screens and so on. That's the way to do it. I said, no, I'm good. No, Dickie was always going to do it because it was his company, Beaver Films, and they were co-producers with British Lion, I guess it was. And I mean, they were in charge, and they made the deal in America, a very bad deal, it turned out, selling it to some distributor who then went broke, and so we never got any money back at all. But never mind, we made the film, and it was a good film to have made.
The only way to tackle this problem is on an official union basis. That's what I'm here for, and that's what I'm prepared to stay here for. You are all engaged on work of nationally important...
My dear friend Bernie Lee, who played the union head, Bernie had a bit of a reputation for liking a jar. And when we were in Ipswich, staying at the White Hart Hotel to shoot the factory stuff, we had an early morning call as usual, 6 o'clock, makeup and so on. And it was the day we were going to shoot Bernie's big spiel, talking to the men about the union and striking and all that. And quite a big shoot for him. And I was staggering out of my hotel room, and I bumped into Bernie in the corridor. I said, "Where have you been?" He said, I couldn't find my room last night, so I ended up in a linen cupboard. I said, "In there?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Are you all right?" He said, yeah, I think so. Oh my God, he's got this big scene to do. So anyway, he was rather bleary-eyed, but then he usually was. And we staggered down to the set, and Bernie was sitting there like this, and they lined up the shot and everything, and he had this big spiel to do, and they said, "Mr. Lee, we're ready for you." So he sort of staggered to his feet and stood behind the microphone into which he had to deliver his speech, his head down like that, and they put the clapperboard in and said, 161, take 2, take 1, clap, and his head came up like that. Action. And he shot through the speech, absolutely spot on. Got a round of applause when they said, cut, print. And he went, ugh. Said, "All right, Bernie, you can go home now." But he was a lovely guy. I adored him.
Brothers, at the last meeting, a decision was taken to elect a works committee to represent you in dealings with the management. That decision was taken in a democratic fashion by the majority of brothers present. I'd like to read you the official minutes of that meeting.
I had no real criticism. Well, I criticised myself, obviously, and one or two bits and pieces. But no, and there were some bits that really were kind of brilliant. The scene where Pier Angeli gets so angry that she bursts into Italian is absolutely terrific. Of course, it wasn't scripted, but when she's chucking Joe out of the house, you see, and suddenly, and we just watched in amazement. Guy was, cut, brilliant. She said, "I'm sorry." I said, "No, it's brilliant. You know, she's an Italian girl. Why wouldn't you lose your temper? You might easily." And things like that did happen, and it was good fun. Very short shoot. I think we did it in 6 weeks, and that was it. And now I went back to J. Arthur and Pinewood.
Cosa t'hanno fatto?
I went to the opening in New York by mistake because I was doing a show in telly, I think, or a bit of a film in Toronto at the time. It was the middle of the winter, and I went down. Dickie and Brian said, "Oh, come down." It was a horrible night, and I got stuck in the blizzard, and that was a bit of a no-no. But no, once it came on and all was done, I kind of lost touch with it, really. And it was a Beaver film, and that was it. Well, it was more enjoyable because it was a more interesting character, a stronger story than Doctor in Love or Upstairs and Downstairs or all those sort of Betty Box, Rafe Thomas movies that I was involved in with my contract at Rank. And so I really enjoyed doing it.